There's no reason to have a war like this. There doesn't need to be a war like this. We wouldn't be having one if Joe Biden didn't want one. But Biden wants it. He's doing this on purpose. We're not imagining that. He's telling us what he's doing. We're just ignoring him. Many Democrats are telling us what they're doing. Here's Biden ally Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts saying so out loud on Fox on Monday. Watch.
If they wrap this in the Senate with a Ukraine funding and a COVID funding, you guys okay with that, Congressman Moulton?
Look, I'm going to support it because it's the right thing to do for Ukraine. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of politics involved, and there will be domestic debates here at home about other policies and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we've got to realize we're at war. And we're not just at war to support the Ukrainians. We're fundamentally at war, although it's somewhat through a proxy, with Russia, and it's important that we win.
Really? We're at war. Did you know that? Did they text you to let you know? Because wars tend to escalate. And wars that are existential for one side, in which the leader of a country feels he may die if he loses, tend to escalate very quickly, obviously. Seth Moulton isn't worried. It's just important that we win, he tells us. We? Really? Who's we? And important to whom exactly? Is there anyone outside Washington who wants a real war with nuclear-armed Russia? Who exactly is Seth Moulton talking about when he says we?
Good morning from Paphos, Cyprus. It is around 8:30 here on this Friday morning. I am on the east side of the harbor. A couple of days ago, I did a video from the Paphos Castle. Let me pan around so you can see it. I don't know if you can see it way in the distance down there. Now I'm on the other side of the castle, and this is the east end. This is where you'll have a lot of hotels going down this way behind me. You'll find a lot of hotels. Further down, the lucky few people who can swing it have homes in this area. And it's just a nice area to go for a walk, to go for a run, to hang out, to maybe drink your coffee as you're staring out towards the ocean. But yeah, it's a nice place. It's a nice place to relax. And so I thought we'll go for a walk. We'll talk about the news. We'll make our way towards the harbor, where I will then grab a coffee and edit this video and get it up. So let's talk about the news. You saw the opening segment, Tucker Carlson, and the fact that you have this Democrat congressman openly saying that the U.S. is now at war. We'll talk about Germany. We'll talk about Belarus and Lukashenko's comments, and then we'll finish it off with a clown world. And we have a good clown world. It's coming from the UK and Defense Minister Ben Wallace. So let's get moving. Let's go for a walk here, and we'll talk about the segment from Tucker Carlson where you had that Democrat congressman just saying it out loud. The U.S. is at war with Russia. He even said that that the Ukraine is just a proxy. So I mean, you can't get more out in the open than that, can you? And this is coming after we got the news. The last 24 hours, a lot of news. The last 24 hours with regards to the downing of the sinking of the Moskva ship. We got some news from the New York Times saying that the Pentagon is helping Ukraine target and kill Russian generals, and we keep on getting this news about this cargo plane carrying like 200 Russian soldiers was supposedly downed by Ukraine with the help of the Pentagon as well. Now, a lot of this news is being reported on by the New York Times and those anonymous sources that the New York Times and much of the collective West mainstream media kind of has in their back pocket. The Pentagon is refuting the claims, specifically the claims about targeting generals. I don't think I've seen a comment yet about the Moskva, the sinking of the Moskva, but the Pentagon has remained very quiet about that as well. This cargo plane thing, I'll get into that also. And let's start with the claim about the Russian generals. So the New York Times ran an article and they said that the Pentagon, according to anonymous officials, the Pentagon is helping Ukraine locate Russian generals and eliminate Russian generals. And right after this article came out, two officials at the Pentagon actually refuted this claim. They said, we are not doing this. Kirby at the Pentagon said, let me actually pull out a quote from Kirby just to make sure I get his quote right as to what he said. Give me 1 second, everybody. Where is it here? Pentagon denies intel from the New York Times saying that it targeted generals. Pentagon denies sharing intel with Ukraine to kill Russian generals. So this is what Kirby said. He said, we do not provide intelligence on the location of senior military leaders on the battlefield or participate in targeting decisions of the Ukraine military. At the same time, though, Kirby did admit that Kiev combines intelligence it gets from multiple unspecified sources to take its own decisions. That's a quote. Apparently shifting the blame for reported killing of Russian generals onto Ukraine itself. Kirby said, Ukraine combines information that we and other partners provide with the intelligence that they themselves are gathering, and then they make their own decisions and they take their own actions. That is a direct quote from Pentagon spokesperson Mr. Kirby. And then we have the story about the sinking of the Moskva, which is now supposedly, now the claims are, allegedly, supposedly, that the U.S. also helped Ukraine sink the Moskva as well. And they provided the intelligence for the Ukraine military to take that ship out. That was just sitting off the flagship Moskva that was sitting off the Black Sea coast. And once again, anonymous officials, anonymous sources are saying this. And then you have this story which has been floating around in the U.S. mainstream media now for like 2 weeks, something like 2 weeks, where supposedly, once again, with the help of U.S. intel, the Ukrainians took out this Russian cargo plane, killing 200 Russian soldiers. And so what's going on here? What is going on? Here's what I think is going on. I don't buy any of these stories, first of all. They could be real. They could be true. I'm not saying they aren't. I don't buy them. I don't buy the killing of Russian generals thing. I think it sounds very Hollywood. It really sounds nice, doesn't it? The Ukraine military is taking out Russian generals. They're just picking them off one by one. It sounds very Hollywood-esque. Something that scriptwriters in Hollywood or DC would definitely come up with. I don't buy it. Once again, I could be wrong, but I don't buy it. We heard about Gerasimov and that he was injured as well. And the Ukraine military almost took him out. And the next day he was sitting next to Shoigu at a military press briefing. So I don't buy any of this. Ukraine is taking out Russian generals. I think this is spin and narrative, and I'll tell you why they're doing this, in my opinion. The Moskva, no one knows. No one knows. Plain and simple. So I don't even think there's a need to speculate. Going to the Pentagon and these anonymous officials, I think is once again just speculation BS. Who the hell knows? No one knows. The only people that know what happened with the Moskva are the Russians, the Kremlin, the Russian military. That's it. So I don't think there's any reason to even discuss it anymore. It happened. It doesn't make much of a difference in the grand scheme of things with this war. And whether it was Ukraine that took it out, whether it was sabotage, whether it was some mistake that happened, who knows? So I don't think it's relevant anymore. It happened. It's over. But the media continues to bring it up. And I'll tell you why they continue to bring it up, and they bring it up with the narrative that Ukraine took it out. And then we have this cargo ship that was carrying Russian soldiers, and 200 of them died. I have not been able to see one video, one photo, anything of this massive plane that was shot down from out of the sky. I haven't seen a video or photos of debris. I haven't seen anything as far as crash that took place. I mean, this must be a massive plane with a lot of people that supposedly was shot down and crashed. I haven't seen any evidence. Did I miss something? Is someone in the comments, can they show me some photos or something with regards to this cargo plane? Because I haven't been able to find anything that that corroborates the story that Ukraine shot down a cargo plane, a Russian cargo plane with 200 soldiers on board. If something like that happened, I imagine that would have been massive, absolutely massive news for all of us, and specifically for the Russians. And that would have probably led to a massive escalation. I haven't been able to find anything. You would think if a huge plane like that crashed and so many people died and the Ukraine did it, that would just be, I mean, it would be a game changer. And you would have photographic and video evidence everywhere. I haven't been able to find anything. So why is this happening? Here's why I believe this is happening. And it's connected to what the Democrat congressman said in the opening segment. The Democrats, the deep state, the globalists, the Biden White House, at least a significant part of the Biden White House, and the mainstream media, the collective West mainstream media, wants war. They want war. And you'll notice that in the Tucker Carlson clip, even Tucker Carlson mentioned the we. He said, who are we? I did a video 2 days ago when I was talking about Pelosi's trip to Poland, and I said how Pelosi is using that word, we. And I was saying in that video, who is we? Why is she all of a sudden saying we will not let Russia win? We will strike back with the strongest possible force, or whatever she said there. We are going to win. Whatever she was saying, she was using the word we. And I said in that video, actually it was a video by the castle over there, I was saying, isn't it interesting how they're now throwing around the word we, as if they're trying to hypnotize us? You know, it's like it reminds me of that show in the US, The Mentalist. I don't know if people remember that show, but that's what it reminds me of. It's like some mentalist type of Las Vegas trick, Las Vegas magician trick. You know, we, all of a sudden it's we, isn't it? It's not them, it's not Ukraine, it's not NATO helping Ukraine, it's none of that stuff, it's we. And that was a significant narrative shift, because what did you hear in the segment that I played earlier today? I mean, earlier in this video? We. That's what they were saying. We are at war with Russia. He said it. The Democrat senator outright said it. The United States is at war with Russia. We are at war. And Tucker understood that. Tucker Carlson understood it, and he pointed it out. He's 2 days late, but he pointed it out. He's saying, who is we? And I say the same thing. In Cyprus or in Greece, wherever I am, Greece isn't an ally of Ukraine. Ukraine is not in the European Union. Ukraine is not in NATO. So why should we talk about this conflict using the word we? You can use the word them. I mean, since the United States and the collective West is so big on pronouns, I mean, this is not a we thing. This is a them. This is a them versus Russia. Has nothing to do with we. But they're acclimating us. They're acclimating the collective West to accept the fact that we are at war, or we are going to war with Russia. That's all they're doing. They're simply acclimating society, and they're getting society used to the fact that we are going to be fighting the Russians. It's a trick. It's a trick. They're manipulating us, and a lot of people are going to buy into it. A lot of people are going to buy into it, and they're going to say, yeah, we are at war with Russia, because they're not going to stop and take a couple of minutes to think about how they've been manipulated. So they're manipulating us with their wordplay, and they're manipulating us with these bogus stories. I believe they're bogus. Once again, I can't confirm that they're bogus. I can't confirm that they're real. Maybe they are real. Maybe the Ukraine military has taken out dozens of Russian generals. Maybe they took out a plane with 200 Russian soldiers. And maybe it was those amazing Ukraine missiles that took out the Moskva. Maybe. But The reason that these stories are being propagated by the collective West mainstream media is because they want the collective West, they want Americans, they want Canadians, they want Australians, they want Europeans, they want citizens of the UK to believe that we can defeat Russia. If we just support Ukraine, if we just give them more money, more weapons, and eventually, if we just send our sons, our daughters, our husbands, our wives to go fight in Ukraine, then we will win. Because look at the amazing things that the Ukrainians are doing without our help. They're taking out generals, they're sinking ships, they're taking out planes with hundreds of Russian soldiers. Vladimir Putin has cancer. Vladimir Putin's sick. The Russian offensive has stalled and it's fizzled out. Officials are visiting Kiev and they're talking with Elensky, and Elensky is in his offices in Kiev and he's standing strong and he's leading the world against Russia, and he's fighting for freedom and for democracy. These are the narratives. And when they're spitting out stories about how easy it is for Ukraine to take out generals and to pick them off one by one and take down planes and do all these heroic things, Ghost of Kiev, Snake Island, all of this stuff, they're just basically trying to pass the message off to all of us in the collective West that if we go to war with Russia, it'll be a piece of cake. It'll be easy. That's it. Let's go to war. Give it a couple of months. NATO's going to clean up the Russian military in Ukraine. The Russian government will collapse. Russia will then have a new president who will be a neoliberal globalist who will open up the Russian economy to the collective West, who will sell oil and gas for a couple of pennies on the dollar, and everything will be perfectly fine. Come autumn, winter of this year, everything will be great. You'll be buying your gas at 20 cents a liter or 20 cents a gallon. That's what they want us to believe. That's why these stories are coming out about the generals and the planes and the Moskva and what the Ukraine is doing with the Pentagon's help. Because they want to pass the message that look at what they're doing on their own. Can you imagine if NATO or if the United States actually sent troops to Ukraine, how easy it would be to defeat Russia? That's what they want us to believe. And so they're lying to us. They're manipulating us in all kinds of ways. One sec. You know what I dropped? I dropped my Cafe Nero card. it's my scratch coffee card here. I've got 3 coffees, another 6 more, and I get one for free. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. There are reports that claim from a Ukrainian publication, Ukrainskaya Pravda, that claimed that Elensky, way back when the conflict started, Elensky was ready to negotiate and to agree to Russia's terms. But once the UK saw that Russia was moving out of Kiev and those areas where they surrounded them, and Russia was moving back to focus on the Donbass, in what some people call, what some military experts say was a feint. Other experts say that Russia just went for a quick debilitation and they couldn't do it, so they went to Plan B. Anyway, different analysts look at those maneuvers in a different way, but when Russia had surrounded Kiev and then they pulled back to focus on the Donbass, the UK government and Boris Johnson got wind of the fact that Elensky was actually thinking of negotiating with the Kremlin and was thinking of coming to terms with the Russian government and agreeing to a ceasefire on the terms that Russia laid out. But Boris Johnson went unannounced to Kiev, unannounced to us. I mean, he went kind of last minute to Kiev. He met with Elensky, and he told Elensky, "Don't you dare." There are reports coming out from Ukraine media that are citing officials in the Elensky government who are saying that Boris Johnson went to Ukraine and he said, look, here's the deal. We see Russia as weak now. Actually, let me get the quote, because this is an interesting statement from Boris Johnson, and I don't want to butcher it. Give me 1 second. Where is it here? Here it is. Here it is. So Boris Johnson, this was last month, he visited Elensky. The publication is called Ukrainska Pravda, UP, and they reported, citing officials close to the Ukrainian president, close to the President Elensky, that the West had originally advised Elensky to flee because Russia would win in 72 hours, but was now backing him fully, they claimed. According to the behind-the-scenes look at the ongoing crisis published in the Kiev-based outlet, Ukraine's Western backers were convinced that the Russian military would seize Kiev within 3 days and offered Elensky to govern from exile in London or Warsaw. When this failed to happen, and Russia offered negotiations, Elensky sent a delegation with the goal of creating the impression he was willing to make a deal. This is according to UP. The points of the agreement made public by Russian envoy Vladimir Medinsky after the March 29 talks in Istanbul, Turkey, are in fact true. Then Russian troops withdrew from northern Ukraine, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson arrived in Kiev almost without warning on April 9th. Here's the important part. Johnson brought 2 simple messages with him. According to UP, the first was that Vladimir Putin was, and I quote, a war criminal who should be prosecuted and not negotiated with. And the second was that even if Ukraine was ready to sign some kind of agreement with Russia, the West was not. Johnson's message was understood as a signal that the collective West now felt that Putin was not really as omnipotent as they had imagined, according to Ukrainian officials, quoted by the UP, Ukrainsky Pravda. Between what they described as Ukrainian military victories and alleged Russian atrocities in that village outside of Kiev, the West stopped being isolationist and pledged to help Ukraine with all sorts of heavy weapons. Kiev officials are now publicly planning for a total defeat and capitulation of Russia. And Arestovich, the Baghdad Bob of the Elensky regime, he's like the buddy of Elensky, who was also an actor and some film producer. Elensky would wear high heels, and this guy would like cross-dress in his TV appearances. Arestovich is saying that come June, the end of June, Ukraine is going to be fully armed and ready to mount a massive counteroffensive against Russia and defeat the Russians once and for all. This is coming from Arestovich, the best buddy of Elensky and the Baghdad Bob of this war. Don't believe much of anything Arestovich says, but this is what he is telling the people of Ukraine. Come June, the end of June, there will be a massive counteroffensive that will defeat the Russian military once and for all. And here you see Johnson, when he was in Kiev about a month ago, pretty much saying the same thing that Arestovich is now saying at this moment. So Arestovich is pretty much echoing what Johnson told Elensky a month ago, which is that they believe Putin is weak, they believe Putin is sick, they believe Putin is not omnipotent, that's a quote, as they thought he was. And they believe that they can defeat the Russian military, and they're going to now support Elensky with all they've got. That's the message. Once again, the West wants war. They want this war. German Chancellor. Well, let's talk about Germany. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz came out yesterday with an interview that he gave to Bild, to the publication Bild. Let me just check this real quick. I've got all kinds of articles and quotes lined up for this video. Was it Bild? No, sorry, not Bild. With the Hamburg-based liberal weekly Stern magazine, Stern. I don't know it. I thought it was Bild. Scholz argued that Russian President Vladimir Putin envisions a peace he would be able to dictate over the heads of the Ukrainians, but he will have to reach an agreement with Ukraine instead. And Scholz is basically saying, and I'm going to read you the quote, that the only people that will be able to lift the sanctions against Russia that the collective West has placed will be Ukraine. And that'll happen once the Ukraine military, once Elensky definitively defeats Vladimir Putin and the Russian military. This is what Scholz said. We will only be able and willing to withdraw our sanctions in agreement with Ukraine. I don't think many people in the Kremlin have grasped that yet. This has devastating consequences for Russia. Scholz said that Germany and its partners were advising and supporting Ukraine, including diplomatically, but cannot and will not make decisions for Kiev about Ukraine's fate. This is about Ukraine. Only their president, parliament, and citizens can conclude an agreement with Russia. Scholz credited Western support to Kiev for what he described as Ukraine being able to maintain its resistance to Russia for much longer than Putin had calculated. But notice that Germany and other countries walk the tightrope of backing Ukraine while avoiding a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia. So that is Scholz. Basically, Scholz's statement there is, I don't know what he's talking about, a tightrope. Germany's in a world of hurt on an economic level, and Russia hasn't even begun to bring the pain to Germany. But anyway, all of Scholz is kind of also in La La Land. But he is saying that Ukraine will win, and once they win, they will dictate the terms as to what sanctions get lifted from Russia and how, and if and when and how Russia is allowed back into the Western global architecture. Ukraine's going to decide that. In other words, Elensky is going to be deciding the fate and future of Russia once he declares victory over Russia, which, according to Arestovich, will begin in June when Ukraine mounts a counteroffensive, and according to Boris Johnson a month ago, is something that NATO has been planning for a while now, from the time that they saw Russia move out of Kiev. That's when all of this plan went into effect. In other words, come summer, Ukraine is going to begin its defeat of the Russian military, and Olaf Scholz is betting on that as well. He is betting Germany's future. He is betting on the German people's well-being, on Germany's industry, on Germany's small business viability, all of that. He's betting everything on the fact that come June, end of June, the Ukraine military will begin its outright defeat of the Russian military. And he's saying it. And when that defeat is complete, in say a couple of months, then it will be Ukraine and Elensky that decide what will happen to Russia. Putin will be defeated. There will be a new Russian government. And for the Europeans, everything will fall into place. The Europeans are also calling for the confiscation of Russian assets now. And while all of this is going on, the European officials see an excellent opportunity to make a lot of money. So Charles Michel of the EU is now calling for the confiscation of Russian assets. And Michel said this: Russian assets that have been frozen in the EU as part of sanctions against Moscow over the conflict with Kiev should be seized and allocated for the reconstruction of Ukraine, according to Michel. I'm absolutely convinced that this is extremely important, not only to freeze assets, but also to make it possible to confiscate them, to make them available for rebuilding the country. I'm personally convinced, this is what Michel said. He said that it's going to be kind of tricky to do such a thing because of pesky laws. You know, those laws. All those laws in those EU countries are going to make it a little bit difficult for the EU to just confiscate Russian people's assets. He said there are 27 legal systems across the EU. In many EU member states, this needs a decision taken by a court in order to make it possible. It takes time. It's different. It's a difficult and a long process. But he's committed. He said acting in such a manner, in other words, confiscating assets, should be a question of fairness, a question of justice. You see, upside down clown world, justice now means the confiscation of people's assets. And if anyone believes that what they're going to do to Russian people now they're not going to do to me and you in the future, well, as Alexander says, I've got a bridge to sell you. Because everything they're doing to Russians, whether it's in the US, whether it's in Europe, wherever it is something they're going to turn around and direct to us. Didn't Biden just the other day in a speech say that enemy number one for the US government are MAGA supporters, Trump supporters. So you better believe that whatever they're balloon testing in the United States and in Europe with regards to Russian assets, or in Canada with regards to Russian assets, because there they've also moved to close bank accounts and seize assets of the Russian oligarchs. Whatever they're directing at these Russian people, well, they're going to direct at you and me. Let's talk about Lukashenko. Lukashenko came out with some comments as well, and he said this. He says, I don't think that the operation, I did not think that the operation would drag on like this. Lukashenko is the president of Belarus. He said, I am not so involved in the matter to say whether it's going according to plan, as the Russians say, or the way I feel. But I would like to stress that I feel the operation is taking too long. Lukashenko said, Russia by definition cannot lose or be defeated in this operation. And this has to be the starting point of any analysis. So Lukashenko is saying, look, I have no inside information of the plan, but it's my feeling that this is taking too long. He also said, though, that Russia will not and cannot lose. I was reading the Dreisen report and talking about the war. Jacob Dreisen said in a new post that he made this morning that Ukraine is running out of gas in a big, big way. Diesel and petrol. There are lines for gas, for cars to fill up at gas stations all across Ukraine, including South Ukraine. Diesel is running out. It's non-existent. And just using basic logic, once Ukraine runs out of gas, well, then they can't really do much of anything, can they? And that includes from the military side of things, and that also includes from the civilian side of things. And no matter how we see the war right now, and all of these narratives of the Russians are moving in this direction, and the Ukrainians are mounting counterattacks in this direction, and all of these things that we're trying to figure out with regards to the war on the ground, one thing is definite, that should Ukraine run out of petrol and run out of diesel, well, then there's nothing much to really discuss anymore, is there? The war is essentially over. Everything that Ukraine is doing is just going to grind to a screeching halt. And that's from the military side, and it's from the civilian side as well. And people are going to suffer. People are going to complain, and people are going to say, you know what? Enough. We need to get back on with our lives. So Elensky, negotiate, and let's put an end to this, because once the gas is out and no one has anything to get around with, well, everything's over. It's done. And we're getting there. We are getting there. When you look at the videos and you look at the cars that are lining up, there are reports that the gas stations are limiting it to something like 2 liters of gas per car now. So they're rationing the gas and the petrol. And diesel is nowhere to be found, at least from a civilian level. There is no diesel anywhere. That's the way it's looking. So we have that. And let's see, do I want to talk about anything else? I don't think so. I think I covered a lot of ground. Gosh, I covered a lot of ground. So with that being said, let's do a clown world. And this clown world comes from the UK, and it comes courtesy of the UK Defence Minister, Mr. Ben Wallace. And Ben Wallace is saying that it is super windy now. Not even the windscreen is going to save it. Not even the windscreen is going to save this wind. Man. Give me 1 second. Give me one second here. I need to find the article. Here's the article. It says the Ukraine could train British soldiers once the war ends, says Ben Wallace, the UK Defence Minister. Ukraine troops could be asked to train British soldiers after the war with Russia, Ben Wallace said on Wednesday. Lessons learned from hunting Russian tanks and aircraft with Western supplies, weapons, would be valuable to British forces, according to the UK Defence Minister. He said, every day is a learning day for us and the Ukrainians. I think you could definitely foresee Ukrainian experience being used to teach our forces. That is the video. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel and the Duran.locals.com. I am now finally at the harbor. You can see right here. And oh wow, there it is, Cafe Nero. That's where I'll go, right there. And I'll use my coffee punch card and get closer to that free coffee. 6 more to go. All right, I'll leave it there, everybody. Take care.